According to American Evangelicals, empathy is the newest and biggest sin that the world faces today. That's right, empathy, the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand what they're going through, is now considered a sin by the demographic that voted overwhelmingly in favor of Donald Trump. Should we be really surprised in learning that empathy is being marketed as the new and deadliest sin by American evangelicals? It really tracks in line with historical precedent as well. Because when you think about it, the whole concept of race was created by white Europeans who made the claim that the darker you are, the further away from God you are. It was the Portuguese that created the concept of blackness, which led to the concept of whiteness. And that concept of whiteness was used by Europeans to spread religions, particularly Christianity and Catholicism, and conduct a global genocide, the likes of which we've never really fully taken into account or understood, because history has been whitewashed to prevent us from seeing the true nature of European expansionism. So when you consider the historical underpinnings and you draw a line to today's evangelical Christian community, it's a logical progression. It makes perfect sense that American evangelicals would be making the case that empathy is something that should be avoided. And in fact, that lack of empathy shows up in how people view the role of government. Pew Research actually did some recent surveying, which indicated that the more Christian you are, the less likely you are to support government aid being given to the population. And the TLDR version of all of the survey results is that American Christians love money more than they love God. I don't think that should be surprising, since this is the group of people that have advanced the whole prosperity gospel BS. When you dig into the data that Pew provided, there's some pretty interesting results. Overall, when you look at the entire population that was surveyed, 46% believed that government should do more when it comes to helping those in need, and 27% believed that government should do less. Here's where it gets interesting. The more religious you are, the more likely it is that you would vote that government should do less. In fact, those that categorize themselves as highly religious voted that 36% of the time that government should do less to help people. Those who were self-described as medium religious or medium low religious, 27% said government should do less, 24% said government should do less, respectively. And those who described themselves as low religious believe that 18% of that group should do less to help people who are in need. What we can take away from all of this is that at some level, those who identify as Republicans vote for Republicans and describe themselves as evangelicals and describe themselves as evangelical Christians are perfectly fine with more suffering in the world. And when you think about it, and you think about the way that religion has been used throughout history, and particularly Christianity has been used throughout history to subjugate people, an underlying theme of the religion is that it's God's will. If you are suffering in this life, that is God's will. So you just need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and deal with it, because salvation is going to be in your next life. That's the whole premise of being Christian, is that it doesn't matter what's happening now. If you believe the right way, you're going to get salvation later. And it makes sense that Christians would now also be of the position that you are where you are because that's how God deemed it and designed it, and that's where you deserve to be. That was the reasoning they used to exterminate indigenous populations around the world. That was the reasoning that they used to enslave people all around the world, and particularly justified the Atlantic slave trade and chattel slavery. And that's the reasoning that they used to justify Jim Crow, segregation, and every other type of injustice in society. It's God's will, and you shouldn't fight it. That's your lot in life. when you put all of that in context, doesn't it make perfect sense that they would be fully on board with re-electing a felon, a fraud, and an adjudicated rapist? Perfect symmetry.